Deep breath. We're going to have a good show tonight. We're going to talk intelligently about all the relevant topics in football. There's a lot to cover. We got to talk about AFCON. We've got to talk about the transfer window. We've got Celtic Cam coming on to preview the Six Nations tournament. Rob's going to talk about the U.S. men's national team. So we're going to have a good show. Everybody's going to make good points. There's not going to be any hijinks. All right, yeah, who am I kidding? It's the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. You know that buffoonery is going to be involved. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the worst 120 minutes in all of sports. Once again, it is time for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. I am joined, as always, by my producer and faithful companion in all things podcast related, producer Stead. How goes it this week, good sir?
Doing fine. Things are going all right. Think that football wise, I think they should always try and have the international break coincide with the end of the January transfer window, because it actually gave me something to relatively pay attention to. And I was happy to see that even though the club game was not fully active this week, there was still plenty of international ball and also transfer drama that we were able to get some of, because it was quite dead for most of the month. So it's pretty cool to see how things are shaking out. And sadly to say, Spurs might have did pretty well with this one. So kudos to Spurs. I think they might have, I don't know. We'll see how this one turns out. But I saw what they did and I was like, okay, this is looking pretty good. And hopefully Everton can reap some of those benefits as well. So we'll see.
Newcastle. We'll talk a little bit about the transfer window overall in one of the later segments of the show, because of course we've got to talk about this ongoing love triangle that is called Ousmane Dembele, Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and Arsenal. And well, is it a love square because it also involves Barcelona? That's kind of awkward. But we'll get on to all of that. Our good friend from across the pond has joined us on this lovely transfer deadline eve. London, Sean, how goes it, my friend?
Well, it's got pretty depressed, really. I had a 3-hour kit before the pod, as I have to do this in the middle of the night, hoping that I would see some headlines about who we've replaced our centre forward with. But it doesn't appear that we have, unfortunately, unless I'm completely wrong. Also, Stead, when did you win the lottery? I noticed you've got a sort of new studio behind you. Have you moved into a big mansion or something? Or
Actually,
what's going on?
I forgot to blur my background before this. I'm actually been relegated to the 4th bedroom in my house. I'm no longer allowed to be in the basement because my daughter is now sleeping in the basement. So she has an entire floor to herself. So needless to say, I'm next door to my son, who is just right over there. Right. So yeah, that's why I am suddenly in this 4th bedroom.
So the smallest member of the family has the most room.
Not only does she have the most room, she has her own bathroom as well as her own home gym and playroom, all available to her when she's able to climb out of her playpen, which she currently sleeps in because she doesn't like sleeping in the crib. So, but she sleeps 13 hours a night. So I'm going to take advantage of this as long as I can.
There you go.
So that's why I'm in this great space. Also, let me just say this. I think I wasn't so concerned because my wife has actually been turning this room from a storage room into an actual bedroom looking or room looking. So, maybe I'll stay in here for a while.
It looks very cozy.
Oh, thank you. It is quite cozy. It's actually my favorite room in the house, except when she comes in and decides to open the blinds and turn all the lights on, because I like things quite dark and cavey. That's why I like the basement so much. But
that's why you like Arsenal, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Dark and cavey. Yes.
And anyway, and then I watched a fantastic game. Did you guys watch the final of the Australian Open?
No. We did not, because
Whoa!
unlike, yes,
That was
I
a game.
watched, as Steph was saying, beyond just the being at the having international break at a time when most of the major leagues aren't playing, I concur with this. I did like the window coinciding with the end of the transfer break, because, you know, we did have the end of the Australian Open. What a comeback by Rafa Nadal to win his 21st. He becomes the most decorated men's tennis player of all time. It gave me an opportunity to focus on the international game, which poor scheduling by the Canadians happened to be on at the same time as the AFC Championship game. I was a bit surprised that the Bengals won. They are headed to their first Super Bowl since the Reagan administration, and they will be playing the LA Rams. So, Stead, congratulations, the 80s are officially back. You know, I went down this weekend because there was no football. We went down, my wife and I went down to DC. We had a nice meal and we saw a great concert. We saw the Rebirth Brass Band down at Hamilton Live, which is a really great venue in downtown DC. If you don't know about Rebirth, look them up. They're absolutely fantastic New Orleans jazz band. What is it? It's about 10 guys. A bass drum, snare drum, tuba player, and then a couple of sax players, a couple of trumpet players, and a couple of trombone players. I love them because when they come on stage, they're going to come on stage for 90 minutes, but they're going to blow for 90 minutes. And it was absolutely fantastic. I highly recommend looking up their music or just seeing them in concert if you have the opportunity. They're absolutely fantastic. Love them. Had a great time with that. And they play both of my favorite songs.
More than you can say of Man U blowing for 90 minutes, really, isn't it?
Yes, it's a different kind of blow for 90 minutes. Those are, they blow the horns for 90 minutes and we like them. So yeah, it was a great weekend and a great opportunity. And we got to focus on some great games in Scotland. We'll talk to Celtic Cam about that. We have a massive game on Wednesday at 2:45 Eastern time, the 1945 kickoff in the UK. The Old Firm takes center stage on Wednesday, with Rangers having made a couple of big signings. Amadou Diallo on loan from Manchester United, and a surprise move for me is Aaron Ramsey, the off-injured Aaron Ramsey, who has played, I think, a grand total of 30 minutes of football in 18 months, is going to be lacing them up, potentially, for Rangers, or Sevco, or the Huns, or the team that shall not be named, depending on your affiliation. So, and then they picked up after Celtic picked up a point at a last-second win this week after Rangers had a surprise 3-3 draw. So we'll have plenty of time to talk to Celtic Cam about that later. Instead, I don't know about you, but I got to watch some lower league football Saturday morning. The endless texts from our good friend Chelsea Mike urging me to watch the Fulham Blackpool game, which ended 1-1 and turned out to be, I thought, a good game. We had a lively discussion that we'll pick up about the virtues of Alexander Mitrovic and whether he is just a big fish in a little pond and he should stay there down in the championship, or whether, despite the fact that we have seen the movie and the sequel, whether there needs to be a trilogy of him trying to lead the line in a for a Premier League team. I very much feel like this is becoming, Alexander Mitrovic is like the football striking equivalent of the Fast and Furious series, right? The first one was good. The second one was By now I've seen them and I know what the plot is, so why am I going to bother watching this again? So yeah, lots of things went on, lots of things to talk about. And so we'll start though with a conversation with about African Cup of Nations, and we're going to welcome in our good friend, the Professor Matt Kowalski. How you doing this evening, Matt? And a man who instead we have not seen in far far too long.
Far too
Far
long.
too long. Far too long. He's back. El Hadji, our good friend from Senegal, is back. He's been over in Africa. He's had a lot to deal with. So we're going to welcome our good friend El Hadji back.
Hey guys.
Bonsoir. Salam alaikum. So good to see you, my
Walaikum
friend.
salam, bonsoir, guys. Nice to be back after a long, just like Mike said, long time. I'm glad to hear everybody here, and glad to see you all.
So good to have you back now. My friend, you have been in Africa recently, and you have been in Senegal, and I know, if I know anything, even though we haven't talked in a while, you have been closely following the African Cup of Nations as a whole, and especially Senegal. So before we get started talking about Senegal in earnest, how has the tournament been received? What is the attitude? What is the feeling? What is it like in Africa as this tournament is going on amidst all of the chaos created by COVID and other geopolitical issues going on over there in various parts of Africa?
I mean, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad they didn't cancel it. But as far I've been only in Senegal, for the last couple of months, and it's a mixed feeling. We have a love and hate, relationship with the AFCON, because we always go there. We've been doing good, with the best team in Africa. Yet, it's like if you open our trophy chest, this nada, 0-0. So it's a love and hate. There's a lot of people who hates, this time, because we always feel that we're the best and we never won it. And this time around, people, I think, they temper down their excitement, because they don't want to disappoint themselves also. So we don't want to jinx ourselves. And it's got up. Personally, I'm glad that we didn't do very good, a couple of, in the group stage. We got a win on the last minute and 2 draws. So if anything, we won't jinx ourselves this time, hopefully.
Congratulations, Sean. You have turned the Senegalese into England.
No, it sounds as though the Senegalese have turned themselves into Spurs.
I mean, on paper, frankly, we can beat any team in the world on paper. I think, we are full of talent, but somehow it's in the mindset, that we just drop it at the last minute. But hopefully this one is, the road is easy. It's been easy. We avoid playing any future past champions, basically.
Sean, you look like you had a question.
Well, I have to say that I also have been watching all of the Africa Cup of Nations, and it's been a very intriguing tournament to watch, I should say.
So far, yes.
So far, and I've always had a little part of my heart in Senegal, considering I sang it in a very famous song at Highbury for about 10 years, because he comes from Senegal. He plays for Arsenal. So the Senegal one was one that was chanted a lot. So I had a sneaky feeling that Egypt might do well, and they've snuck into those semis, haven't they? So who's your favourite, El Hadji? Who do you think, now we've got the semis coming up, what do you think is going to happen?
I'm rooting for, Senegal, Egypt, the Sane versus Salah, final. And it's going to be a test match for me, because the next time we're going to meet them, for qualifying the World Cup. So, yes. So I just want to see how we going to do versus, Egypt, because I like the way they play. And every time we play Egypt, it's like no matter who wins, it's really nice football. We play, every time we play Egypt, that's nice soccer, nice football. And I want to see how they fare. I'm rooting for them to beat Cameroon because Cameroon is like our our base. We always lose to them. I don't want to play them, at home, basically.
That's the other issue.
Yeah,
I
I
don't want
agree.
to play. I don't want to play Cameroon at home, definitely. So
I was just thinking that because Matt, you brought up earlier how you were a bit surprised that Egypt has had the success they've had in this tournament, because I think early on a lot of people weren't sure how they were going to fare, and the fact that they're in this game against Cameroon, I think that's probably going to be the most difficult game is trying to get through Cameroon, because it just seems like they're playing at home. They've been, and even when the tournament was dead during the group stages, Cameroon was still scoring goals when there was lots of draws. They've been scoring, and I watched the Gambia game, and I will say, I mean, it was blatantly obvious from the get-go that Gambia was going to be outmatched in that game. They put up a valiant effort, played 10 players behind the ball, but you saw Cameroon breaking through. So, but you got to wonder though, could there be a little measure of the fact that Gambia played the way they did and Cameroon didn't have much of a challenge, especially from a defensive perspective? Could Egypt use that to their advantage? So, I don't know, but go ahead.
I see Egypt beating them because just like Senegal, Cameroon has not played an African champion yet. So, their road to success to the semifinals, like, playing with these, so-called, because there's no little teams, but, the less, title teams. So this is their first real test match playing Egypt. And I just hope that, we'll be playing Egypt in the finals.
Hadji, do you think they could start selling better watches in Africa? Because your referees can't seem to work out what 90 minutes is on the.
Either they blow it too soon or too late. Never.
What's going on? What's going on?
I can see. Yeah, either too early.
Come on.
That's for our next trick. We're going to have El Hadji start porting Swiss watches for referees, specially designed for referees.
Rolex.
That zap them when it is the appropriate time to blow the match dead. Matt, you had brought up way back when we started talking about this, hoping for some excitement when the semifinals came. And we've talked about this, El Hadji. We've talked about this amongst us, Matt, Stead, myself, and Sean. This tournament got off to a very, very, very slow start through the group stages. I'm pretty sure that at one point in time, there had been more red cards given out than there had been goals scored and matches won. But we get to the semifinals, we have, we kind of have a little bit of everything represented in the four teams. We have the little team that could. We have the most successful team in tournament history. We have the home nation, and we have the team that we recognize as being the best in the Confederation at this exact moment. So Matt, I want to get your thoughts real quick. Is this what you would have hoped for coming into the semifinals?
Yeah, to be honest, after the slow start, things picked up. I think the knockouts have been quite good. And we have Senegal v. Burkina Faso, who, we assume Senegal is, and at least on paper, they are the most talented, but they haven't ever historically gotten over the hump. And Burkina Faso, sort of the same way, the 2013, 2017, they were close. They've been here before. And then in the other one, Cameroon, Egypt, the two most successful nations at this tournament.
I think they have 12 titles between them. I think
Egypt
7 and 5.
Egypt got 7 and Cameroon got 5. Yeah.
Oh, and let's not forget about the fact that in Burkina Faso, you have this little issue of like a civil war going on right now, I believe.
Yeah.
But Burkina Faso doesn't seem to go away, though. They always seem to bounce up in these tournaments. I'm surprised that they've had to qualify for a World Cup, because it seems like whenever you look away and then you look back again, they seem to be somehow in the mix all the time. So it's interesting to see how they can blossom when politically things settle down there, because it will happen eventually.
They always manage to be at the quarterfinals or the semifinals. You know, they haven't get to that quarterfinals.
There's clearly a lot of talent there.
So, oh yeah.
This is an interesting question, though, that you bring up, Stead, and I'm interested to get El Hadji's take on this. Success in the African Cup of Nations does not necessarily breed success in even qualifying for the World Cup or being successful when you get there. We've talked about it and never really asked this question straight up. Egypt are by far the most successful team, by 2 championships, the most successful team in the African Cup of Nations. This tournament, they seem to know how to win. But when it comes to getting to the World Cup and then getting past the group stages, they don't know, they just can't do it. On the other hand, you have a Burkina Faso who can make it a ways in this tournament, but then struggles to qualify for a World Cup. In fact, I don't believe they've actually ever qualified for one. You know, we've seen some nations do all right and make it to the knockout stages of this competition. Malawi surprised me. I know that my friends were very happy to see them just make it out of the group stage, but they will not be participating. We know that African World Cup qualifying is a bit of an odd bag when it comes to the unseeded groups, which always seem to throw us a great group stage match. You know, I love seeing the likes of Cameroon in Nigeria or Cote d'Ivoire in Africa all in the same group, but it means that one of them won't qualify for the World Cup. Yeah. So it's a 2-part question for you, El Hadji.
I think it's 2 different competition. Being that during the African World Cup, you play each team like once, and the qualification for the World Cup, that's you go there, you play, you come home, you play. It's that combination of going there to Egypt, playing them, and then playing home turf also. Egypt is very good at these tournaments, where they play you once and then they trick you on one little thing and they win. And they know how to win, playoffs, not championships, basically, If it is a championship, you go there, you play them, you come home, you know what they're doing. And then basically you learn their system. But they in this African World Cup, AFCON, they always have some hidden trick that's gonna kill you. That's what I guess it is.
That is something I never really thought about. So that negates the second question I was going to ask, which was, are there changes necessary to the African system of World Cup qualifying that would give these squads like a Burkina Faso a better shot? But I'm feeling what you're saying, like, if Egypt can beat you, Egypt game plans for that one game and then they come back, and when you see them again, it makes them easier to beat. Maybe Africa's got it right, and they are actually getting their best teams through to the World Cup.
Oh yeah, and I think we deserve more than 5 teams.
Everybody does.
I
think you're not going to get a shred of disagreement from anybody on this panel that everybody believes that Africa deserves more than 5 teams
in the World Cup. And hopefully, if we make it to the semifinal one day, or the next time we make it to a final, we'll be increasing this team, because we went from 3 to 5, and hopefully it's going to be maybe 7. And I think it will be a shame that either Egypt or Senegal won't make it. Only one of these teams going to be making it.
Actually, you haven't heard my theory about how we should reform the entire World Cup. How about if every African team got to the World Cup and we just had a big knockout competition? We start off with 123 games, 128 games, 64, 32, 16. Just have it all knockout, and then all of you could Join the
I
World
think
Cup.
we'll, if you have like 7 or 9 in there, at least 7, that'll make sure that the best 7 is out there. They will. I'm sure we're going to be into at least one of them is going to reach the semifinal or play
I
the
think
final.
you are going to get your wish when the World Cup comes to the States and it expands to 48 teams. I know that amongst the list of things that was being done was that Africa was going to be bumped up a couple of spaces. For example, there aren't many more teams that you can put in from South America. As much as they don't deserve it, CONCACAF is going to get, I think, 2 or 3 extra spots. Africa is going to be Africa and Asia should be the biggest beneficiaries and get the lion's share of the additional spots. Because frankly, Sean, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Europe requires any more than the 11 or 12 slots that they have right now. And if they're going up to 16, that's even more depressing, because then we're going to see some really bad European teams in there. But getting 7 or 9 African teams in there, I think, would be good. And I think we've all come to the agreement that when it comes to, I think if there's a continent, a confederation that's likely to win a World Cup outside of CONMEBOL and UEFA, I would say Africa would be my most likely candidate. Would be the one to have a team that would reach the semis, reach the finals, that was outside of the traditional South American and African sort of power structure. So a couple of things that we got to get to before we move on to Celtic Cam. I'm going to let Hadji go second because he's earned this right. But Matt, give us your predictions on the semifinals, the upcoming semifinals, and the final for African for the Cup of Nations. How do you think this is going to end up?
I think Senegal will advance to the final, and they've been my favorite from jump, so I'm not changing my prediction there.
Thank you, man.
I am here to do some self-criticism. I think Egypt does get over Cameroon, and I do think they get to the final. I don't think they can take it, but I'll say this. Kirosh's tactics have been better in the knockouts. He's playing Salah on the right as opposed to down the middle. He's rather defensive still, but actually in this match against Cameroon, I think that might be a strength as opposed to a weakness. And he's managed to get some of the substitutions right. The timing's been a bit off, but by and large, like, I've seen growth there. And like, I was reminded, particularly against Morocco, sometimes in knockout football, if you have one mutant, one truly great player, that's all you need. Now, I was reminded painfully, because it came at the expense of what arguably might have been the greatest Soviet team ever assembled, Euro 1988, when if you play that match back 10 times, the Soviet Union probably wins 6 of them. Before that they lose, and the one that they did lose, they got Van Basten. You can't account for that. And Salah's kind of having that sort of tournament, particularly in the knockouts. Like, you can't stop it. FSG, pay this man his money. For real. So I'm saying Senegal, Egypt in the final, Senegal to take it.
El Hadji, you get the last word on the African Cup of Nations. Give us your prediction for how
Man
this
read my mind. This is me wishing that, thinking it's true, of course. I don't want to play, Cameroon, they haven't been very successful for us. I want, I hope, Mo Salah gets, a couple of red cards so that we won't play him, during the finals. But definitely, I can definitely see it, Egypt, Senegal in the finals, and Senegal going on top for once.
So And now, Hadji, just because I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you in quite a while, we've gone through the whole entire season, and I haven't had a chance to ask you this question. How you feeling about your Liverpool right now?
I mean, it's reduced, it's like right now with Salah, Mane and Navigator, I still love them, man.
So you feeling like when they get all their guys back, they can mount a title challenge?
Make a comeback and then, just, go up there. Because when these three guys come back, I think, we're going to have better matches. Still love them.
All right, my man. It was great to see you. Great to talk to you again. We will get you back next week, I promise, because we've got to put a nice big bow on this African Cup of Nations, and especially if, as we all hope, Senegal emerges victorious, we'll be able to talk and celebrate Senegal bringing home their first African Cup of Nations, and a very, 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 very well-deserved one.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much,
I
my
see
good
you
friend.
guys, and thank you for having me. And
we'll get you back next week.
See you next week.
Man.
All right,
glad
buddy.
to have you back. Glad to have you
Thank you.
back. I will say this about Senegal, Stead and Matt and Sean and Cam as he joins us. You got some interesting things going on. Of course, Burkina Faso is in a way punching above their weight class.
Mhm.
You've got Cameroon, who has been dominating this entire tournament. And then you've got two teams in Egypt and Senegal, who kind of they've France World Cup this thing where they kind of played in second gear throughout the group stages. And now, they're starting to pick up a little bit of steam. Maybe it did take a knock to Sadio Mane's head to get him in the game. I don't know what happened there, but here's a team that's been struggling, and then I know it's Equatorial Guinea, but they go out and they put up 3 goals and basically walk with that one quite easily to get into another semifinal. Stead, what are your thoughts? How do you think this tournament's going to end?
I think Senegal is going to win. I do. I think they're just a little too talented for the other squads. And I think I agree with El Hadji about how I think them playing poorly in the group stage is actually going to help them. I think they're not going to peak too early. And I think that they've gotten those pre-tournament, like we're the best team in Africa. We know we should be winning this thing. I think they've gotten those jitters out. And I think they have learned a bit from the last time when they finally lost. So I think it's set up for them to win. But where I disagree, I don't know. I feel like Senegal has a better shot playing against Cameroon in the final than they do playing against Egypt. I just do. I think they would be better. I think a Cameroon-Senegal game would favor Senegal, in my opinion, a bit more than a Senegal-Egypt game. The Egypt just, you don't want to see him in the final. You just don't want to. And for a team that's won this tournament as much as they have and have won it recently and have won it with a less talented squad, I think, and look, Cameroon is playing well. Yes, they're at home, but Cameroon just doesn't seem to be as strong as they have been in the past. So that's just my gut telling me that. So I'm pulling for Senegal. I really am pulling for Senegal. I feel like this is a year of teams that haven't won things to win things. I think I'm saying that also with over here with American football, with the Rams and the Bengals in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, one of them is going to get their first Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, the LA Rams, they weren't getting them when they were in LA. They only got them in St. Louis. So hopefully this will. So I don't know. But that's what my gut is telling me. That's what I'm pulling for. But I'm glad though that, look, BN Sports is actually advertising this tournament. They're advertising it, and even though they didn't.
When is the final?
The final is next Sunday.
A week from Sunday? At what?
Yes. No. It's Sunday. I'm sorry. I meant to say Sunday. So, but the fact
coming Sunday.
Yes, this coming Sunday. But
So
the
a week
fact
from
that
yesterday, at
yes,
what time?
yes, I believe it is at I think it's like 2 o'clock. I think.
We might need to figure out a way that we can watch this.
Yeah.
If somebody with a
Absolutely.
BN login and
Yeah.
needs to come out instead and
Yeah,
help
I
me
got
find
one.
a place to
Okay, cool.
to do this, we'll hook it up to the TV and we'll watch it. And
Yeah.
maybe we can even invite El Hadji.
Mhm. Yeah, this should be, but well, the good thing
Let's
is,
work
I'm
that
sorry, as long as I hate to dump on Burkina Faso, but as long as they don't make the final, it's going to be a great final. Senegal, Cameroon is going to be a great final. Senegal, Egypt's going to be a great final. So I just don't want to see Burkina Faso in there.
Which is what you're going to end. No, I'm not even, touch wood, I'm not even going to speak that into existence. Sean,
That's
you
true.
said you've been watching the entire tournament. Give us your thoughts on how this ends up before we move on to our good friend Celtic Cam and all things Scotland.
Yeah, I'm not going to change my tune from what I said earlier when I watched the group games. I think the quality has been average at best. And I think whoever wins this tournament would not get in the top 5, would lose against the top 5 or 6 best European teams. So obviously I'll be shot down in flames at the end of this year when we have a little World Cup happening in Qatar. But I've not been, and I think you'll find there's going to be a shock. One of those semis is going to produce a shock. I don't know which one. The fact that you're playing for extra time and penalties means Burkina Faso might just decide to put 10 men behind the ball. Can they withstand that against Senegal? I don't know, but you know, when it's semi-final time, it's squeaky bum time. So anything can happen over those 90, 120 minutes. But yeah, so that's only my personal view. But I don't want to spoil El Hadji's enjoyment of watching his team hopefully get through to a major final in the same way that we got through to a major final during the summer where I managed to fall off my wall and smash my face open. So I hope he has as many enjoyable beers watching his team play as I did.
Yes,
even though it couldn't beat Scotland.
He doesn't drink. So
doesn't he?
He doesn't drink.
He's missing out.
Yes. I would say though, based on your prediction, you're assuming that Burkina Faso is going to make it because the only possible shock in the semifinals would be Senegal losing to Burkina Faso. I think
that might happen.
Yeah, I think either one of Egypt or Cameroon would be worthy finalists and somewhat expected given the quality of players that they have, the fact that Cameroon's playing at home and their history in this tournament. The biggest shock would be, of course, Burkina Faso beating Senegal. But, outside of the last game, which was 3-1, their only margin of victory has been 1 goal or penalties. I don't think, though, Senegal has gone to penalties yet in this tournament, if I'm not mistaken.
Was someone trying to explain to me Eric Bailly's penalty taking technique?
He realized that
excuse me.
He realized that if he missed that penalty, that was going to keep Mo Salah there in the African Cup of Nations longer, which would then somehow benefit Manchester United because he was keeping a Liverpool player, he was keeping their key player at the African Cup of Nations that much longer. So, what he was actually doing was smart. He was taking one for the team. The bigger question is not his penalty taking technique. The bigger question that needs to be asked was why he was allowed to take the penalty.
Has he ever taken a penalty for Man U? Has he ever had a penalty? No.
He scored all of 1 goal for Man U. He's never taken a penalty. And I don't think that he would be my choice because remember, it wasn't extras that he was going for. It was in the original one. So
I believe he took the second one, right?
Third one.
But this is the I know a lot of managers will look around when penalties come and say, all right, who wants to take him? And full credit if Eric Bailly raised his hand and said, I will, because it takes a certain set of stones to step up and man up.
Hang on, and it takes a certain manager to say no. Sit down. You're
Yeah,
not fucking taking a penalty. You can't take one.
That was where I was about to go. It also takes a strong manager to say, "Sit down, you muppet. You're not taking one." I've seen this play. I know how this goes, and we don't need those type of hijinks. All right, but I digress. We want to welcome in our good friend and correspondent on all things from the land of enchantment, Celtic Cam. How goes it? We have so much to talk about this evening.
We do. It's been a good week for Celtic.
All right, so where do we want to start? The Six Nations begins this week, and we have to talk about this week that was for Celtic in the SPFL, and then we even need to slide in some transfer discussion because the team that shall not be named made a very interesting signing. So, you know what? I'll let you choose where you want to go first with this.
Okay. Well, why not start off with rugby? Change things up a bit. Six Nations.
Six Nations starts. We've got quietly. And I know, Stead, you're with me on this one. Quietly, this has become one of my favorite competitions to watch each year. I don't know whether to call it a league, a championship, a tournament. I don't know what it is, but I love it. Scotland come in, I believe, as third or fourth favorites to win, which is an interesting one. They had a great run at the end of last tournament, beating France and England. How do you think it lines up in this iteration, which is really the introduction to the kind of the cycle that brings up the Rugby World Cup in the fall of 2023?
Yeah, no, I think we're looking really good going into it. As you mentioned, we had a really good campaign, and I will say our first game, as Sean knows, is going to be a difficult one. We've got the Calcutta Cup starting out first. I think the positive we have there is we were able to beat England at Twickenham last time, which Sean, you might know better than me when the last time that actually happened was.
Prior to the time before, over a decade, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It might have been in the 90s, something like that. That was a big win for us. And, we've got England at home this time for our first game. And I think that's going to be a really, really big one. Doesn't seem to be, from what I've seen from the team news, any big changes to the lineup so far for Scotland. I don't know, Sean, again, if England's got any major changes that you've seen.
No,
apart from
Farrell's out for the whole tournament.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's decent.
That's pretty major.
Yeah, that's a big one. Okay, so yeah, I think that's going to be another hard hitting game. That was a really close one last time. I think it was 11-6 last time. So I think I'm really excited for that game. Post that game, then we're playing Wales and Cardiff, I believe. Which the last time we played, it was 23-24, so a really close game there. And Wales won it that year, last year. So I think that's going to be a really, really big game as well. And then playing the French. That's again, we were able to beat the French for the first time, I think, in quite a number of games. So I think Scotland we're looking like we're having a stronger year in terms of preparation for the Six Nations. So I'm very excited. It's a mix of younger players and then older players, more experienced players like Stuart Hogg, some players, Vandermeer that's come in and just absolutely gone off from the start. So I'm really, really excited for, first of all, the Calcutta Cup and just overall the general campaign.
All right, Sean, England had a pretty poor Six Nations coming off of a really good World Cup. Eddie Jones is looking for some redemption. He got the backing of the RFU, but Owen Farrell going out is a big loss because now you're basically handing the reins of your offense to a 22-year-old who's got all of 2 test caps to his name in Marcus Smith. You start with Scotland at Twickenham, which is never, you start with Scotland at Hampden, which is never an easy place to go. and play.
Murrayfield, not Handy.
Murrayfield.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. Either or, it's still not a good place to play.
No.
And what can we expect from England? Some people think that they may challenge the French for the French and the Welsh for the title. I've also seen where it's like this could be a really, 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 really bad one, and the end of Eddie Jones as the manager of the England rugby team, depending on how you see it. So I know that you're the eternal pessimist when it comes to all things England sports related, but give us an honest appraisal of where you see England rugby heading into this Six Nations.
I think we're going to find it very hard on Saturday, and I think Scotland might have the edge. I still carry the scars from the early 90s, I have to say, when Scotland stopped our Grand Slam at Murrayfield, and I was there, and we were overwhelming favourites that day. That was when the Scott and Gavin were playing, and you had all the Milne brothers up front, if you remember. In fact, I had a dinner with that team about a month after you beat us, and I have to say, what a cracking bunch of guys. Give them a few beers in their hands and they knew how to party, that was for sure. So I think England are going to be in trouble, and as you rightly then potentially predicted, Mike, I think this could be the last foray for Eddie Jones. But I think in top level professional sport, as we found out at Arsenal with Wenger hanging on for sort of 15 years or 10 years too long, sometimes you need to have a turnaround and someone new at the top bringing in a new set of ideas. He had his crack at the World Cup last time, and we unfortunately failed at the very last hurdle. So maybe it's time to hand the reins over to someone new. But anyway, I won't be too defeatist. We'll have to wait until 4:45. So there's a bit of competition this weekend, isn't there, for sporting wise? Because I noticed that, sorry, you just said the final of the AFCON clashes with Liverpool's FA Cup clash. So what are we going to do? AFCON or Liverpool FA Cup clash?
I know I am going AFCON. That is not.
Yes, I know. It's an easy decision for you, Mike.
Yeah, that one's a quite simple one.
Yeah.
In fact, Sunday, and if only the fixture on Sunday were a little bit better, I might consider making a double header out of it. But for some strange reason, I just can't get behind devoting too much time to watching France play Italy.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the quality of France, who in a lot of people's minds are the pre-tournament favorites. It's more about the fact that I think they need to go back to the Five Nations or rotate Italy out with another European team, a much stronger one. I would much rather, but I think the travel makes it prohibitive, but I would much rather see Georgia or somebody in there than Italy, who just get curb stomped by everybody. That's just a bonus point win for the taking. The other we talked about Scotland, England. Both Sean and Cam seem to be forecasting a close
game, Scotland win.
Yes,
Yeah,
close Scotland win at Murrayfield. I'm gonna get it right this time. The other match will be Ireland and the defending champions Wales. Based on the stuff that I'm reading, Wales, neither Wales nor Ireland getting a whole lot of love. A pre-tournament, a little bit surprising for the defending champs. Ireland's been up and down since they won their Six Nations. What was it, 3-4 years ago? So I will say this, I think it's going to be a close game, and I think it's going to be a tight game. I wouldn't be surprised if either team wins. I will say, though, that I think the winner of this one gets set up. I know it sounds strange, but I think the winner of this one gets set up very, very nicely to go on in the remainder of the tournament. This is one of those ones this is that game that you need in this 5-game tournament, the one that's could go either way, and you need it to go your way, because if it doesn't, you might rue that opportunity when it gets down to the end. So I'll start with you, Sean. How do you think that one's going to turn out in Ireland on?
Well, I hope to God Ireland win. Otherwise, it's not worth living in my household for the rest of the
Yes, I
week,
know that.
Considering, my other half and my mother-in-law, more importantly. No, I do think Ireland will win. I tell you what I'm looking forward to, Mike. I'm going to take the sort of argument a little bit away from the actual rugby, but I'm not sure enough was made of what a disgrace the England fans were at the Euros. At a major international final, breaking, over 1,000, 2,000 people breaking in without tickets. The place was just a complete mess. What we're now seeing in lower league football is bottles being thrown on the pitch again. There were incidents at least 10 matches this weekend. So what I'm hoping is that the rugby community, who always lead from the forefront, can show us that you can go and have a good time and have a drink and not be a complete arsehole at these games. And let's hope the English and the Scots, as we normally do, there's always good banter, but not fighting out on the streets outside Murrayfield. So there we go. That's my hope for the weekend, that rugby can show the football fans the way forward.
And I want to echo that as well, Sean, because we've recently in the past few games in Scotland, and I'll be the first to admit, the last game, Celtic Dundee, we had Celtic fans doing the same thing.
Did they?
Yeah, absolutely. We had Joe Hart had to go and calm the crowd down. I mean, absolutely disgraceful. And I'm right there with you. I think rugby generally leads the way in terms of sportsmanship. And I'm really hoping that we can pick up from, I don't know if it's people coming back into the stadiums finally or getting too excited, but I think you're absolutely right on point with that. I'm hoping rugby can lead the way here coming back this weekend.
So as far as the Ireland-Wales game,
Ireland win.
We've registered Sean as an Ireland win. We know that Jenny will be happy if that happens. That might just be a self-preservation prediction.
It is
on his part. Cam, what do you think of that one?
I think, if I'm correct here, it's being played in Cardiff, right?
No, I believe it's being played in Ireland.
Oh,
hang on.
Yeah.
It's in Dublin. Okay, because I was going to say, I think.
Yeah, it's in Dublin.
Croke Park.
Yes, it is Croke Park. They've moved it back again, haven't they?
Yeah,
I was there a couple of years ago, and there's a new. It's the old stadium renewed, isn't it?
Or are they calling it Aviva?
I think Aviva was the one they played in, and now they've gone back to Croke.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think with these two teams, it's going to come down, honestly, I think in a big part to where it's being played. So I would have to say Ireland as well. I mean, Dublin is another extremely hard place to play in front of the home support. And I think Wales and Ireland have been they look decently even coming into this competition. Mike, as you said, whoever wins this, I think is going to have the upper hands in this competition. So, I have to agree with Sean on this one. I think Ireland, I think it's going to be really close. I think all the games that we're going to see coming up are going to be really close, but I think Ireland's going to take this one.
All right, so let's switch gears and turn to regular football, not rugby football, regular football. Big week last week for Celtic as they narrowed the gap at the top of the SPFL to a mere 2 points, picking up a very late win on Saturday after a midweek game, setting up probably one of the more important Old Firm derbies in recent memory. 2-point lead. Rangers coming in a little bit shaky. Their last two performances, they left it very, very late midweek to find a winner. And then a surprising 3-3 draw early in the day on Saturday. So talk about the week that was in the SPFL, and then give us some insight into how you look at this upcoming Old Firm derby on Wednesday at 2:45 our time, 7:45 UK time.
Yes, I think coming into this derby, I do feel good about this. I think it's going to be another close one. But looking at a combination of things like, players that are injured, that are out, the form of both teams, the last 5 games we've won, the last 4 out of 5, they've won 3 out of 5, tied 2 of them, tied 1. And as you say, they're kind of their back line being so shaky. I think Angie's football against Gio's is gonna, I think, just have the upper hand a little bit. They're missing some pretty significant people. The biggest one to mention is Morelos. He's out playing for Colombia right now. He's out warming the bench for Colombia right now. Hadji is out on injury. Those are two of the big players that they utilize a lot. So we are missing Kyoto, who is our big goal scorer. But with Gio Vamakis, we found that he is a scorer. We're finally giving him a chance now that we've got that forward position open. So my prediction for Wednesday is going to be 2-1 to Celtic at this point in time. As I say, I've gone through betting odds. It's looking like Celtic have the slight advantage, and I fully agree with that at this point in time.
All right. So it was an interesting transfer window. Talk about the fact that a favorite of some of the members of this panel will be now plying his trade in the land of enchantment. A surprise move from Juve to the Huns for Aaron Ramsey. I said to you a little bit earlier today, I'm a little bit surprised that this was the move. I know that he had talked about wanting to go back to the Premier League. It doesn't seem like there was a legitimate offer.
Well, there was. Burnley or Rangers. I know which way I'd go.
You go for Rangers, but I have to have questions about like the finances involved in this. It looks like Juventus are paying a significant portion of the wages to make this possible.
Yeah.
Cam, give us your thoughts on this move for Aaron Ramsey.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Earlier in the day I was looking, and people were saying that he was essentially sitting in a UK airport somewhere deciding between Rangers and Burnley, and kind of made the decision last minute. I'm sure Sean knows, I remember when I saw Aaron Ramsey played, I think 50% of the time, he was playing, 50% of the time he was injured. He's 31 at this point in time. It's a really, really odd pickup to me for, Rangers. I know Rangers are in a terrible, terrible financial state currently. So it makes sense for Juve paying most of those wages, but it's a really, really odd pickup. I mean, he's 31, 32 at this point in time. They're still leading the league, but it's just, I don't see how he fits into the team with the players that they have, how they've been performing this season, to bring a guy that in the past 18 months has played like 2 games and both times as a substitute. It's a very odd signing for me. But, again, I don't know what Gio's plan is with him. If it's more of a situation where he wants to bring someone for experience in, to help these younger players, whether it's through training, through the backroom type stuff. But it's definitely, it's odd. I will say I got to give Aaron Ramsey credit. When he was playing, when he was having a good day, he was a beautiful player to watch. Absolutely, like no doubt. But he's kind of out of his prime. He hasn't played proper football in almost 2 years. So I mean, time will tell.
Did he not play for Wales?
He did play sporadically for Wales, but he hasn't been playing regularly at Juve.
Right.
No, he's not good enough to get in the team. I know he's been probably injured as well, but yeah, he's not good enough to get in that Juve midfield. That's what it is. What you should have done, Cam, is gone out and you should have bought Ryan Shawcross late last night.
That way we can get.
That would have been good on Ramsey's debut. Crunch. Oh, he's out for 9 months. Oh dear.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we can figure that. Maybe what they're doing is looking to see if they can sign him to like a temporary pay-as-you-play deal.
Exactly.
For the old firm, just for when.
Aaron, you remember Ryan, don't you? You remember
Yes.
that game in Stoke all those years ago?
Because I mean, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Shawcross currently unattached?
He's unattached. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
could I mean look, Wayne Rooney made a phone call to Phil Jagielka and got him to play for Derby. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure that Angie can make a call to Ryan Shawcross and say, hey, look, all we need you to do is put down the beer and the cigarettes for one game and come out and just take out Aaron Ramsey again. You know, if you get a red card, we'll pay the fine.
Yeah.
So you gave us your prediction 2-1. Anything else that we should be watching for as we go into the latter half of the first phase of the SPFL?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I've been looking at is Dundee United. I don't know if I spoke about this, selling off Tony Watt, to see how they do in that top six. You know, they sold off the top goal scorer in the SPFL. I believe they sold him to, I'll have to see, it might be in St. Mirren, something like that. But, you know, I think that was a weird decision. So I do wonder how we're going to see how Dundee does in the top six. They've been an exciting team to watch this season. Again, I think solely because of Tony Watt. Also, you know, I think Hibs, you know, with some of the purchases they've made, especially some of their defenders, Rocky, I think played really well against us. That was like his debut. He played really well against Celtic as a defender. So I'll be interested to see how he continues to progress at Hibs as well.
Rob wanted to know whether there's a team that you can see that's currently in the top six falling out, and a team that is currently in the lower six making it into the top six for the split.
To be honest, I would probably have to put Dundee there. Again, they just don't have that firepower. I mean, I will say they showed that they can still defend, even if it's kind of shaky. I think Dundee is definitely one to watch, and they could possibly drop down.
And so who would they be replaced by?
They would be replaced by who's in seventh at this point in time.
Or below. Anybody lower than that, you can go with eighth if you want to, for all I
Yeah,
care.
no, that's true. Who's been performing well? That's a good question. The teams at the bottom have kind of been sitting there. They haven't been moving too much. If they were to be replaced by a team, well, maybe St. Mirren, Ross County, something like that. Maybe, yeah. As I say, the kind of bottom six have not been moving around too much. I think at this point in time, it's really for Dundee to let it go and to start losing points where these bottom tier teams are, you know, playing their bottom tier other teams and just building up points in that manner.
All right, last question. What jersey are you wearing on Wednesday?
So, you know, I have put so much thought into this. It's unbelievable. I've got about 6 jerseys out on the bed tonight that I'm trying to pick which one. I think I'm going to have to go Hoops. As much as I love this jersey and the black one, it's got to be Hoops. And then my only other question is what pub I'm going to watch it at. So
We might be able to find a way. I have a late happy hour on Wednesday, but we'll talk offline. All right. My man, good to see you again, and we'll have you back next week to give us a recap.
Good luck, Cam.
On the Six Nations and
Not on Saturday, Wednesday.
Yes.
both days, right?
Yeah. We'll have you back to give us a recap on both matches. Good to see you. And we'll talk to you
Thank you,
next
gentlemen.
week. We're gonna go from the land of enchantment in Scotland to another place that is freezing cold, snowy, and has dodgy pitches, Canada. And welcome on our good friend, international Rob, who braved a snowstorm, elements, and a very long drive to go all the way up to Canada to watch the U.S. men's national team lose 2-0 to Canada in Hamilton, Rob, my first question to you is going to be, because the Canadians are so polite, did they actually give you the mittens when you crossed the border?
I wish. No, so the first 5,000 fans who got into the stadium received free mittens. And so I have Canada mittens. Yay. I did not wear them because I had like snow mittens or snow gloves instead. But they're actually really nice. I kind of like them. I actually give them to my daughter, so I'm borrowing them. But they're very nice. They're good quality. They're fun.
What the first how many did you say, Rob? The first how many?
5,000.
First 5,000.
There were only 15,000 at the game.
Yep.
Okay.
So the first.
So you got there early.
Yeah, I got there about like 45 minutes early. Yeah.
Did you? Oh, right. Okay.
And I waited in the cold for 45 minutes.
Did you? Yeah, that's very good. I'd have been in the bar, definitely. Anyway.
So a disappointing loss for the U.S. men's national team. Greg Berhalter tried to put a lot of lipstick on the pig, talked about time of possession, shot creation. But the fact of the matter is they lost the game. Canada got their tactics right, tailored their team for the field that they were playing on. The one thing that I have to give the Canadian Federation credit for doing is to use their elements and their fields to their advantage, dragging the U.S. men's national team that likes to play wide and is used to playing on grass to this horrendous, narrow turf field in Hamilton. It's a Canadian football stadium, right? It's the home of the Hamilton Tiger Cats of the CFL, pride of the CFL. And it didn't help that he decided to start Giassi Zardes up the top, who even on the best of days needs the perfect service and a lot of it to convert anything, and is best utilized. I know he's scored some goals for the US, but he's primarily scored from the winger, not as a line leader. Rob, I got to be honest with you. I think that Berhalter has gotten a lot of stuff wrong this window, and probably more so than he got right. And I'll start with this. I would like to understand what sort of shape Ricardo Pepe is in after having been our leading goal scorer and our talisman throughout the first three windows. Why has he been relegated to the bench? And that one just baffles me.
I'm really confused because, well, first of all, the U.S. has a number 9 problem.
Mm-hmm.
After Pepe scored those goals, there really hasn't been a number 9 who had been scoring goals in general. I mean, also the U.S. have not been scoring goals at all as a team, really. I mean, they've been winning like 1-0, maybe 2-0, or drawing. But when they draw, it was like 1-1, like they drew to Canada, like they drew to Jamaica, or so they just don't score. And even with Pepe, he's played a bunch, but he hasn't scored it a bit either, and so they're just, and ironically enough, the only number 9 that the U.S. has who scored this past last weekend was not even called up, and that was Josh Sargent. Daryl Deke is hurt, so he's an option. I don't know why Jordan Zibitu is not on his roster either, as opposed to Giassi Zardes. Jordan Morris, who plays like a left winger now, but he has played striker before. He's been out for a long time. He's finally just recovering from ACL surgery. It was just bad overall. I mean, and I understand what Berhalter was saying about, he's putting the lipstick on the pig. and there was positive moments. They held the possession a lot. They definitely had like some chances before they got to the box, but the problem was once they got to the final third, they had no idea what to do with the ball. There was plenty. So pretty much the way Canada were playing was they loaded the midfield and they sort of gave them the wings, but then nobody overloaded the box for a cross. So when the US crossed the ball, they would maybe just Zardes there, or maybe McKinney was there, but now nobody else. Nobody else crashed the box. And Canada had numbers in the middle because they gave away the wings, and then they were just able to deflect everything. And also the service was poor in general. Like Christian Pulisic, who's been taking the corners and the free kicks, he had one good ball, and the one good ball from the corner was the one that McKinney actually headed in and was saved by the keeper. That was it. So I don't know. And they were just piss poor in the final third. Did they hold possession? Yes. Did they break out of the press whenever Canada did press, which was very seldom, but they did press sometimes. And the US was able to get out of that. Was Jonas Musa able to advance the ball and break a line or two with his dribbling? Yes. But once again, once they all did all that, they did nothing else with it. So possession without scoring is meaningless. No, we're not playing a game of keep away. We're playing a game of scoring the ball in the net. And they've just been bad overall. And now they find themselves in a position where they really, really need 3 points. They got to get 3 points in versus Honduras, and even colder Minnesota, St. Paul, because now like Mexico and Costa Rica and even Panama are creeping. Everyone's creeping up, and there is a danger that it's going to get really, really testy in the final window, where the U.S. has 2 road games against the hardest opponents in Mexico. Well, 2 of the hardest opponents, because they already had one they lost, which is Canada, in Mexico and Costa Rica. I froze there for nothing. I mean, it was a good time. I get it. I got to say I went to a World Cup qualifier, but I froze for a loss, and I drove like 18 hours for a loss. So there you go.
Yeah, I went to a World Cup qualifier. I didn't drive 18 hours and I didn't freeze. And we won.
Jealous.
It is the one good thing is though that we're playing this game, albeit in a Minnesota that is going to be in the single digits, in an outdoor stadium. But Honduras has all of 3 points and are rock bottom of this octagonal right now. The bad news is that Chris Richards and Tyler Adams are both out for this game. Now, Honduras has struggled mightily to score, and they struggled mightily to not allow other people to score. And I question whether or not a holding midfielder is even going to really be necessary in that game if you couldn't get by with I don't know whoever who they might throw in that midfield. I guess Walker Zimmerman would be the number one deputy for Richards. I'm not 100% sure who they could put in the midfield, and even if you need to put a holding midfielder back there to stop, because I just don't think Honduras are going to attack that much. Not so. We have the opportunity to pick up the 3 points. The 3 points would be really nice because there is a bit of a gap. So the top, Canada's away 4 points ahead of the US and Mexico, who are tied on 18 with Panama on 17. Then there's a 4-point gap down to I believe Costa Rica on 13 points, with Jamaica bringing it up, and then Honduras. So there is a gap. Putting that getting up to 21 points going into that last window would be really good to, I guess, assure us of some sort of at least finishing in the top 4, right? So where do you see this game going tomorrow evening?
I think it's going to be a win, but it's not going to be an easy win. If they win, it'll be like
Well,
1 or 2.
nothing's easy
No,
with the U.S. men's national team when it
Nothing's
comes
easy.
to a World Cup qualifying. The last easy win that I think we had was somehow when we played Cuba in 2008.
no, but you got to remember. So this Honduras team's out, right? They're done. They had nothing to play for. But remember, the last team that the U.S. played that had nothing to play for was Trinidad and Tobago. And look what happened. Okay, they scored a beautiful goal, and then they scored another goal, and then it was over, right? And then the U.S. never went to Russia. So you got to be careful with that. It's cold, but I don't understand why the U.S. is obsessed with the cold. Like, we need to be cold. We need to be at the elements, or blah blah blah. You know, you're more talented. If you're more talented and you're fast, you're quick, you know how to dribble. You want the perfect conditions. Why they insist on like, oh, we need to freeze them to death or something? Like it's ridiculous.
Because they won a game once upon a time in a blizzard in Denver, and think that that's the reason why is because they played Panama in the snow in a blizzard in Denver and got the win. And ergo, they think that they got to drag these South American teams up to the frigid north. And they take a look at Canada and what Canada did to Mexico by dragging them up to Edmonton, and think that Canada won because of the elements, not because Canada, with Kyle Aaron and Jonathan Davis and Alfonso Davies, is actually a pretty decent team.
Yep, they're good. I mean, they have two really good attackers in Laren and David. So, and then you got the wingers and Tajon Buchanan and Alfonso Davies. And then, you know, the keeper has been amazing. Milan Borjan, who plays for Red Star Belgrade. He hasn't made the farthest trip of everybody, right? And so it's dumb. You know, I know the U.S. played Costa Rica and Denver, and they were loved it, and it was we call it Snow Classico. We have fond memories of Jermaine Jones's ice snow throw and all that beautifulness. It's great. It was great for the Getty pictures, right? But it's utterly useless. It's gonna be it's colder. It's gonna be like 10 degrees. You know, that's not fun.
It's not even going to be 10 degrees, man. It's not going to make it out of the single digits.
I know. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be.
And I don't know if that field is actually heated.
It might be. I mean, it's sort of new,
Well,
so it might be heated, but that doesn't
University of Minnesota, their football field is
it's
not heated.
Well, it's an older stadium too, right? So you got to remember.
No, it's a couple of years older than US Bank, which is the field where the Vikings play.
Well, US Bank is an indoor stadium though.
Yeah, but I'm saying that was built in the last decade. When we talk about older stadiums, as far as US Bank, the University of Minnesota Stadium, it's not that old. It's not like we're talking about a stadium that's as old as Lambeau Field, which, by the way, has a heated field.
It does. Well, they've had a heated field for a while. Just one time in the ice bowl, it broke. It was so cold it broke.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
Vince Lombardi back in the 60s managed to put a heated field in Lambeau Stadium, and you're telling me that you can't put a heated field under a field in Minnesota in a stadium that was built this century?
No, I totally get it. So the Allianz Field is heated. I just looked it up real quick, you know, because I'm curious, right? And it's gonna be fine, but it's still gonna be cold. I mean, like, you know, like, yeah, you feel it in your feet, I guess, right? But like, it's still gonna be cold. But regardless of the fact, look, they need a win, because, you know, and so if I had to predict the lineup, right? So obviously no Tyler Adams, right? So you got, I think Kellen Acosta is going to play and start for Tyler Adams. You're definitely no Chris Richards. We don't know about Walker Zimmerman because he was a scratch. He did dress, but he was a scratch. He did not play coach's decision because he felt a little something, but they say precautionary. So in theory, he should be ready to go. But if that doesn't work out, I mean, it's going to be Miles Robinson and potentially Mark McKenzie. who had not seen the field for the US in like forever. So it's been a while for him. And then honestly, I mean, I hate to say it, and Chelsea Mike, I'm sorry to say this, but I think Ballistic needs to sit, because I think it's gotten to the point where it's like everybody looks to him to do something, and then people watch. It happened a lot of times when he was playing on the left wing. Why he's still playing on the left wing, I have no idea, because he loves to go inside, and that's not the game that the US is trying to play. But they still do it. But I think he's at a point where he needs like a rest to like just say, you know what, you got no pressure, just come off the bench and do your thing, like just play, right? But he needs to sit, because I think the team hopefully should move the ball better with him not there. They rely on him because he's the star and all that jazz. He played in the Premier League. He won Champions League. He's like the best player we've ever had. Blah blah blah. But it's gotten to the point where like in Argentina sort of had this problem too sometimes with Messi, where they give Messi the ball and they just watch him like they're spectators. He needs to sit. And the lucky thing too is Tim Weah will be available again. Now that's another story, by the way. All right. So before the US even made it to Canada, the US Soccer Federation screwed up because Tim Weah is not fully vaccinated according to Canadian standards. Now, by French standards, he is. He got one shot, then he had a breakthrough case before he got a second shot, and he got affected with COVID. France considers him fully vaccinated. Canada does not. And the US Soccer Federation should have known this. And if they did know this and try to sneak them in anyways, they're a bunch of fools and morons, right? As a person who went into Canada, who read all the rules and regulations, it's clear as day. 2 shots, negative PCR test. And why they thought that Tim Weah was going to be able to slip through the cracks in Canada is beyond me. It's utterly stupid, because Greg Berhalter has said before, during this window in the press conferences, that everybody is available to go to Canada, because the reporters want to know, is everybody fully vaccinated? Because they know the whole thing with Canada, and they're really stringent on who can come into their country. And Greg Berhalter in the US Soccer Federation was, yes, everyone's good. No, so that just put a whole dark stain on the whole experience going to Canada, and then they sucked it on the field. So it's been a shit show, the whole time, anything involving Canada, and I'm happy for Canada, because they've earned it, they deserve it. The fans were spectacular. Everybody was very nice, except for the few people. Except for the few people in front of me with the freaking Davy Crockett hats. They're a little bit of a jerk, but besides that, as an away fan, you understand that it's not your house. You just shut up and you just move it along, because especially
did they give
when
you donuts?
No, there's a Tim Hortons everywhere, by the way, literally everywhere.
You were in Tim Hortons Stadium. You like, what did you? I just want to know if they apologized for blocking your view and gave you donuts.
I wish I would have accepted it. It would have been wonderful. No, I mean, and there probably was donuts in the stadium, but it was mostly everybody would just drink hammer on beer. It was insane. Everybody was just, and I'm like, how are you drinking beer and with your bare hands? It's cold out here. I did not take my hand out of the glove except when I went to the washroom. All right. And by the way, it's called a washroom in Canada, not the bathroom, a washroom.
Hey, at least it's not the loo.
Yeah. So it's a fantastic time, and anybody who has a chance to go to an away qualifier should definitely go to an away qualifier, because it's a way to really like visit a new country or new stadium, see different people, and also you get to feel like you're like an Uber fan, because you actually took the time and effort to travel, and we're like, you know what, like I care. That's how much I care. I care because I did all this to get there. I could have flown, but the drive was fine. It was okay. But it was great, and I want to go back to Canada. Definitely not for a USA game, and definitely not in the freaking winter. I'll be going back for Red Bull games probably.
You're a better man than I. So we're going to switch gears. Finally, we're going to bring in our good friend Chelsea Mike. And before we get to the lower league conversation, we are going to talk about that day. Gentlemen, it was transfer deadline day, at least in England and throughout most of Europe. There are some apparently like Icelandic teams can sign players for another 100 days, but I'm not quite sure who's going to ice the Icelandic league team to lead the play. So we had some interesting deals that were, we had some interesting deals that weren't, and we have some interesting deals that are still pending and waiting announcement. Let's start with perhaps the biggest one. We teased this at the top. This applies to Sean and Stead. That love parallelogram in between Barcelona, Arsenal, Ousmane Dembele, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, which as of right now, has Aubameyang leaving Arsenal on a free to play for Barcelona for less than 2 million euros. 2 million euros, which was all they had left in their transfer budget. But Barca are still waiting to see if they can force Ousmane Dembele, who had negotiated a contract with PSG, but terms couldn't be settled on, to take a pay cut so that they can sign Aubameyang for more. So strangely, the team that was supposed to be the brokest of all the five major leagues, that Barca somehow managed to sign Fernan Torres, Adama Traore, and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang all in this window.
It's great. It's when you hear about what's going on, like the little glimpse that you get beyond this, behind the scenes about how they have to sort of cook the books in order to pay Aubameyang taking a drastic pay cut to go there, and all the various other doings that, because a recent report came out too that apparently Dembele was offered a bigger contract and turned that down from Barcelona, and who knows if that's true or not. You can't trust anything that's coming out of Camp Nou right now. You just can't. And it's sad to see that you have a club who is, it seems like someone who made several bad investments and has lost all of their income and all of their wealth, but they still want to pretend that they have all the assets that they had before. So they're still driving the expensive car that they're going to miss on the next payment for, and their mortgage is actually underwater. So that's what it looks like over there. As far as the Aubameyang situation, I think the fact that Arsenal no longer has to pay his wages is equivalent to selling him for 25 million pounds. It's basically the same thing. Arsenal was able to get that final 18 months off the book where he was going to be paid 25 million pounds. You got it off the books. You had a player who obviously has something else going on in his life, which is the reason why he does not stay in London in any particular time. Between anytime he has a break, he's gone. He's leaving England. He's constantly going back. We know that his mother was sick a while ago. We know his family is in Spain. His want to be in London was waning, and I don't necessarily knock his play on the field. If you look at his play, he wasn't producing goals, but you can't say the guy was not invested in the quality of the team and in his performance. He was clearly invested. He just wasn't unable to score. I think, if anything, Arsenal made out okay. Yes, you didn't sign his replacement, but you have a very young squad, a very, very young squad. The only squad I've seen that seems to be younger than Arsenal is a squad that the US marched out there against Canada, where the oldest player outside of Gyazi Zardes was 24. So you have a very inexperienced team, but you have miles and miles to grow, but also you have this albatross that was a member of the team no longer there. There is no big wage guy in Arsenal right now. And I think that could be positive moving forward. So am I spinning this because the team I support is in this? Absolutely. But I also think that if anybody here looks like a team that doesn't know what they're doing, it looks like Barcelona and not Arsenal.
Sean, any surprise that Arsenal basically gave Aubameyang away, and that Arteta did not sign a replacement? So you any trepidation as you go into the remainder of the season with Eddie Nketiah and Lacazette as your two senior recognized strikers?
I'm certainly a little bit concerned that we're having to rely on those two now. If Lacazette gets injured, we're in big trouble because Eddie is just not good enough. That's only my view. Sorry, Eddie. Try a bit bloody harder.
I agree completely.
I'll show you the goals you missed against Everton, and I can't remember the other goal he missed. But anyway, just in case Eddie disagrees with me.
Eddie plays worse than Danny Welbeck did when he played for Arsenal.
So there's two interesting things. I mean, football's a very small world, and obviously I live over here. We have media coverage on this stuff 24/7. You probably get all the stuff that we get, 5 seconds later. And I'm just astonished that Arsenal have managed to keep quiet what the issue is. It's not lateness. You can be late a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get stripped of the captaincy and literally get told to go off and train on your own because you're late a few times. I mean, we know he has been late. So the really interesting bit is, one, how has it not got out? Am I sad to see him go? I am a bit sad to see him go. Did he do great for our club? He did great for our club. I will have much fonder memories of Aubameyang than I will of Olivier Giroud, for example, who I couldn't stand at all, although Chelsea told me he's became a great player after he left the Emirates.
Sean, I have to agree, though, just at that point. There was an 18 months period of time where Aubameyang was the best number 9 in the Premier League. There was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. And I won't forget that. I saw him play enough times live. The other thing that's going to be very interesting is we've all forgotten that Amazon have the cameras inside Arsenal the whole of this season. So they're going to have an absolute blockbuster. Yeah. The 3 games we lost at the start of the season, the team coming back, and now the whole Aubameyang situation. So that is going to be gold television, basically. And maybe we'll find out a little bit more, but I have a feeling that they're going to cut all of that out.
That was what I was going to ask is everybody now going to be tuning into like this episode of the Arsenal series on Amazon to see, like, can we get a glimpse of what this is? Because look, Arsenal did not fly him over there. He caught a private plane. He hasn't been in or around the team, at least from Gabon training, because he had heart lesions, myocarditis as a result of his COVID infection. Apparently. He and his agent seemed to take it upon themselves to go to Barcelona to conduct this medical, to say, like, we have a better chance of forcing this through if we're in Barcelona doing it than if we're trying to do it from London. So we'll do that. We'll be there. We'll make this happen. And as Ted said, they were all happy to wipe off the 25 million that was left on the books, but yet in a month where you had the opportunity to sign people, Arteta.
We tried.
They tried, but they there was not enough. I don't think there was enough urgency to get the deal done. And maybe that was my mistake because they made some very interesting signings, if reports are to be believed. 2 from the MLS that I want to talk to you guys about, in the form of Matt Turner and Austin Trusty, who both arrive next summer. Sean, you and I talked about this. I've got to believe that means that Leno is on his way out, because I can't see Matt Turner, who is arguably the #1 goalkeeper for the US, won 1A, coming to Arsenal to play third string to Aaron Ramsdale and Bird Leno.
No, Leno will be off. He is a top class keeper. He deserves to be playing first team football for someone. I think we can get 10 or 15 million for him. Yeah. There was a very key quote that Josh Kroenke made about a year ago. No, in fact, it was after the Europa League final, and he said, "We've got a Europa League team, but we're paying Champions League wages. Now we're not in Europe, and we're still paying Europa wages. So I think we're going through a transition of dropping that wage bill massively. The sad thing for Arsenal is it means we won't be able to compete, I don't think, for the top players. So we tried to get the kid that's gone to Juventus, Vlahovic, and we put a significant bid in for him. You know, we put 70 million quid bid.
And you made us spend more money. You made us just pay more money.
You just paid more money. The Austin Trusty one was a little bit surprising to me. Chelsea Mike and I both watched him play for the Philadelphia Union. My only memory of him will be an own goal against Houston Dynamo in the US Open Cup finals, which could have netted us our first trophy. He was traded to Colorado Rapids ostensibly to make room for Mark McKenzie before last season because Union thought that he was a better prospect. This is not a guy who he's been in 2 winter training camps with the US men's national team, never featured for them in a competitive fixture. So that's Nations League, World Cup qualifying, Gold Cup, not a MLS best 11 player. Short of y'all getting him for free at 23 years old, like, what is the purpose in getting this guy?
That was the point that really didn't sit well with me, because it'd been different if he was 16 or 17 or even 18, even 19, even 20. But, being 23 with miles under his belt already as an MLS player, it's odd. I don't understand the move really at all, unless there's something where he's flashed, where they see a potential to develop him in a way, or they just need a center back and they know they're not bringing Saliba back, but you're going to go with an MLS guy who doesn't start for his MLS team regularly. It's very, very strange. I don't really understand, Sean. You're going to have to take this one. I just wanted to say that as an American who should be happy of an American player going over there, I don't get it one bit.
Okay. Well, it's been a long time since we remembered Emmanuel Eboué, so maybe he's come in as a sort of a Eboué version 2 to the team.
God.
The second point is we've just also offloaded about 4 of our under-23 team who've gone out on loan, and I'm not sure that we've got an under-23 team left. So maybe we are just plugging holes to be able to.
Yeah, but he's not coming over until the summer.
Oh, isn't he? Okay, I don't know how we're going to finish our under-23 fixtures this season, but
and he's, so presumably by the time that he gets there, maybe he'll still be 23. He could be 24. Yeah, but even if you got him for 6 months in the U23s, you're still stuck with a 24-year-old MLS caliber player on Arsenal's book for wages, and I'm assuming that they're not massive, right? I don't think this is.
No, we as Stead said earlier, we don't have any big earners anymore. But we had Callum Chambers on the bloody books for 7 years, and he hardly got a game, and we sent him out on loan, and he was on 90 grand a week, for fuck's sake. So we've lowered that wage bill, and I think we're going to go through a phase where they're going to cap it.
So what this is the Arsenal charity, where they bring in wayward defenders that they can then loan up.
We've got a whole list of them: Igor Stepanovs, Pascal Segal, Gilles Gramondi. I can go through the Wenger's entire defence. The only 2 he got right was Sol Campbell and Kolo Toure, but. Yeah, so we have a history of shit centre backs. Come on.
So we're gonna bring him in, and we're gonna keep him, and what we're going to do is we're going to loan him out for 7 years and then send him back to and sell him back to an MLS team at a loss. By the way,
Or sell loads of Arsenal shirts in the USA.
yes, with Austin Trusty on the back. Yeah, because a ton of people over here know who he is.
Well, you all do. I've never heard of him.
I've literally
You know
told
what, I
you
know
the
in his
only
hometown
reason
is
why I
media-
know the only reason why I know who he is
Yeah.
was because he scored an own goal for the US he scored an own goal when he was on the Philadelphia Union in a cup final, one that I thought that we could very well win. And he scored an own goal. And I had Stet'll remember this. I had a Steve Spurrier flashback. Do you know who that is? No, but I can tell you he won't be on the team tomorrow.
Sean, I've got to tell you, the own goal is one of the most spectacular goals you've ever seen. If a striker shot it,
Yeah.
like it would be one of the best goals of
Goal
all
of the
time.
season.
It is a fantastic own goal, but still, I just had this Steve Spurrier flashback. Well, sir, do you know who that guy? Absolutely no idea, but I can tell you he won't be on the team tomorrow. And sure enough, he wasn't on the team the next year. They traded his ass. But this guy is now who's playing. He's now on Arsenal's books. I guess.
You know what, Mike? And it seemed to me like his time in Philadelphia ended with like an attitude problem. Like he was frustrated about not playing. You know, he started out as the starting center back, and then he sort of got demoted, and it seemed that he didn't like that diminishing of roles. I like, in terms of an attitude guy, a team guy, what happens when he's not center back for Arsenal? That was my question about the move. I didn't get it.
That to me was under the radar, one of the more baffling moves that I saw. I think Matt Turner to Arsenal, I don't know, Rob may disagree with me. I think even being the backup keeper for him at Arsenal, I would have liked to seen him go to a slightly smaller club first as his first international move, but full credit to him. If Arsenal comes calling, you got to sign. So let's talk about we talked about the shady dealings at Barcelona. I want to talk about this one, which was another one that really surprised me for a variety of reasons, and I'm sure this is going to cause some. Brentford made the type of move that a team in Brentford's position almost has to make, and signed Christian Eriksen, who is less than 6 months removed from a major cardiac event that saw him have an internal automated defibrillator put in to electronically restart his heart because he had arrhythmia issues that, I don't know, led to him collapsing on the field and almost dying. He was released from Inter because people with that particular device are not allowed to play in Syria. And this one has been an interesting one amongst all of us. And I wanted to get, gentlemen, all of your thoughts on this. On the one hand, full credit, I'm sure that the medicals passed him, if he wants to play. But on the other hand, this is really a health and safety issue. And I think we forget how physical soccer can be. And just like I worried about Raul Jimenez going up for a header after he broke his cranium, I worry about Christian Eriksen catching a stray elbow to the chest and either damaging his heart or damaging the device that is meant to regulate his heart. So, Sted, I'll start with you. What did you think of this?
I think as long as Brentford doesn't take on any of the risk, then
what do you mean? They're taking on the risk. They're paying the player to play.
No, I understand that. What I'm talking about is liability. And if as
The
long as
liability is he could die while
I
playing for your
understand
team.
that, but what I'm talking
That's
about,
a massive
I
liability right
understand
there.
that. I understand that.
You can't
But
avoid that, dude. You can't avoid that
okay,
liability. if you sign him.
okay. Judging, but clearly you're not seeing this the way I am as someone who is like, kind of involved in investing in real estate and stuff like that. I'm more thinking of the fact that as long as Brentford is aware of the risk involved and they won't see extensive financial repercussions from his family in case something were to happen to him, I don't see anything wrong with a player saying, I would like to continue to play, and someone giving him a chance. It is not up to us to say whether or not he can and cannot play. If he is medically cleared to play and a team was going to sign him, then the man should be able to play. He's choosing to take the risk. He's a grown-ass man. If he wants to play and a team is willing to sign him, then he should be able to play. And I will not say anything about whether or not he should or shouldn't. If he wants to play and a team is willing to sign him, then he should play. Bottom line. And I don't think it's right for us to say he should not play when we watch American football players and gridiron football players who we know their brains are a quarter of a tackle from turning into mush, yet we still see them and we want them to play tight end and play tackle football all the time. So yes, he went through this. It was scary. Hopefully it'll be similar to what we saw with his name is leaving me, who played for Bolton, who re-signed. He played a couple of times. It was more of just a way so he can end his career. Yes, thank you. Fabrice Muamba, yes. Hopefully it's a way that he could end his career no matter where he could go out, he could play around, he could have a kick around, and he can actually say, okay, now I'm going to walk off because I don't want my last experience on the field to be me laying on the ground getting CPR. And I would not be surprised if this is this is going to happen again with this situation. Don't be surprised at all if he plays 30 minutes total over the next few months and then manages to say, okay, thank you very much, and bow out, because that's what I suspect is going to happen.
All right, Chelsea Mike, what do you got?
Well, let me tell you, for Brentford are outside the box thinkers, always have been. And if this is a legit move and they've tested him, I think it could be a very good move for Brentford's team. They do need help. And obviously Christian Eriksen's an elite level player who will benefit them greatly. But I have, what you were talking to there, Stead, every athlete is a competitor and they all want to be out there in the game, winning the goals, winning the games, scoring the goals. But let me say this. I'm not dating her anymore, but when Christian Eriksen went down, I was dating a woman who had a child, and we were all watching that game together. And when he was down and they zoomed in on that particular view between the legs of the guys who were forming the wall, and they were doing CPR on him, like we had to take the child out of the room. So this is, what Christian Eriksen, if you're just going for your last run at glory, your last 5 minutes out there on the pitch, good for you. But if you're not, like, you have a personal responsibility to all of us who watched you die, literally, to not do that again. And if there's a question of whether this is going to happen to you, you shouldn't be out there. And if there's a question that, if there's a question that this horror might happen again, like, this shouldn't be happening, and he shouldn't be allowed to sign, because that what happened on the field that day was very bad for the Danish national team. But there's there's kids involved when we watch soccer. And when people die on the field, we have to say to those kids what happened.
Yeah,
there's
another
okay.
Mark
Whoa.
If you look at, you can do whatever you want, but we watched, the Fulham game today. The Fulham game this weekend was stopped for 45 minutes because a fan in the stands had a cardiac episode. Like,
and died.
Please do not put yourself at risk. If you are not, like, I question really why he's doing this and like what it means for him. you know,
I'm gonna
yes,
I'm
he
gonna
Hold on a
wants to
second.
be a
Look, no,
competitor and
no.
go
I'm
out
gonna
on
jump
Let me
in.
respond. Let me
I
respond.
Mike
Because I have two kids that are very young. Let me
Instead, I'm
respond.
gonna jump-
Hey, it's like Parliament in the UK.
Yes, and I am the host, so I'm going to jump in. There is a difference in between moral and legal responsibility. What you were talking about, Stead, was the legal responsibility. What Mike is talking about is the moral responsibility, right?
Which is subjective.
And that was
Which
what I
is
was gonna
very
get,
subjective, and which is why I'd like
So-
to respond.
Then not so I was going to bring in that before I let you respond because I'm the doggone host and I can do whatever the hell I want.
And I'm the doggone producer who's hosting this Zoom call. So see, you had to make me laugh. Now my energy has changed.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is, as you know, I was watching football, American football, with my kids, with my son recently, and we saw a player who had to get his helmet removed from the face mask and was convulsing on the field. Convulsing on the field. Okay. How many soccer players over in Europe have died on the field in the last 10 to 20 years?
3.
More. Oh no, these are only the ones that are dying in the popular leagues that are on TV. That's what we get to see. We don't see the players who are also passing away. A lot of them too are of African descent because they haven't had the medical clearances and the medical really the examinations involved to make sure they can prevent these things from happening. So yes, what happened to Christian Eriksen was tragic. Yes, it is not something that I would like my children to see. Yes, I understand that, but I don't think that he has a moral obligation to prevent my child from seeing something that I have to talk to him about later. I don't think I have to do that. I don't think that's not his responsibility. And I don't think it's right for me as a parent to say to a player who's 29 years old, who still wants to run around and play soccer. If I'm aware of his situation, I'm aware of it now. We weren't aware of his situation when this happened during the Euros. Now I am aware of it. And if I don't want my kid to see Christian Eriksen potentially dying on the field, I'll make sure I never turn on a Brentford game. But I
Right,
have.
look,
that.
I'm not-
the bigger.
I'm not talking to you, right? Like
I understand that, but
I'm talking
I fall
to
under the
him.
umbrella that you're referring to. I fall in that umbrella.
Right. Like, look, I'm saying don't put your need for glory, your zeal for glory ahead of your not just your responsibilities to yourself, because you only have one
That's
body.
a different conversation.
But-
That's a different
but-
conversation.
Right. But also your responsibility to those of us who watch, right? Like football fans, we like to feel that we have a lot of power and that a lot of football flows from us. But the counter side to that is your responsibility to us is that you don't put us in this situation that's avoidable, right? If somebody hasn't been diagnosed and that happens, I mean, that's just going to happen. What can you do about that? Christian Eriksen has died on the field. If that's a remote possibility, it's not, no one has the right to tell him he can or can't do it. But he as a person should say, listen,
Actually, I think it's
I can't
quite
do
the
it.
I think it's quite the opposite. You know, the reason why we take helmets from NFL players is because we can't trust them to not want to go back in and compete. The reason why you have to take, you know, the reason why I think it's more, and it also goes along with what you were saying, Brett, Stead, about how many athletes have died on the fields, maybe not in the top leagues, but in other leagues, because of the type of medical advice that they're getting, because the medicals aren't the same, because teams are willing to take risks that they may not and probably should not morally take because of the competitive advantage that it gives us. Mike, I'm going to disagree with you on this. I don't think it's up to Christian Eriksen at 29 to say, you know what, I have a moral obligation to all of my fans to never play again. His moral obligation is to himself and to live the best life that he possibly can. I question the wisdom and the medical advice that he's getting from his doctors and Brentford doctors, and the idea of signing him in the first place. And this is where I go with that moral versus legal obligation. Instead, I get what you're saying about, you know, oh, he signed a waiver and they're not going to sue for putting him out on the field. But I think that they have, they have a moral obligation to make sure that they do their due diligence to know 100% that they are not putting this player in harm's way if he goes out in a game that is actually physical with a
But we're
device
only
that-
speculating on what they've done. We don't know.
and that's what I'm saying. As long as those bases are covered, and it's always going to be questionable. For me, I hope that he goes on and has a great career at Brentford. I
Look,
hope he goes.
Nwankwo O'Connell had massive surgery on his heart to return to play. Okay.
Mhm.
Also, I will say this on a personal note. At 9 months old, my own son has had open heart surgery. My own son. So, and I just watched him play youth basketball today. Every time I watch my son play basketball or any other sport, I have that in the back of my head that this little boy, well, sort of, maybe not in comparison to other kids his age, but this little boy has had open heart surgery. Should I tell him that he cannot play? No.
I think the difference that I'm
absolutely
going
not.
with, but the difference is that your son does not have a device that is implanted next to his heart that is run by electricity that controls his heartbeat. That could possibly, I would have a little bit more trepidation about.
Sure. No, my son does have something implanted.
Oh,
in
I
his
didn't know
heart
that. Well,
regulates whether or not his heart works properly or not. He does.
I didn't know that.
You know, I'm sure you've consulted with doctors and everything, and as a parent, you've made the right decision. I question Christian Eriksen as a guy who, when you've gone out there and you've made 10 million euros in a year, and you're told that like your prospects are now being a Danish school teacher and making 50,000 euros a year for the rest of your life, you take risks. And I don't like, and my hope is that he has adequately seen through these risks and isn't putting himself in a situation where, we're all going to regret him, because I think we all want him to be a heroic story where he comes back, plays 5 years, is a king for Brentford and then goes on. But, I mean, if there's a 1 in 10,000 chance of him dying on the field again, like I'd like to think that someone somewhere would have had the foresight to say no,
But
don't
Sean-
do this.
Or
And
just
that's why
have a
I'm
very
here
difficult
in my
conversation with him.
50 viewer space in cyberspace saying, Christian Eriksen, have you fully thought this through?
Sean, jump in.
Yeah. There's just one other point, which is the Italian league is one of the top 4 leagues in Europe. So they've banned players for playing with this. What's the policy
It's
in the Premier
essentially a
League?
pacemaker he has.
Yeah.
to
So
it.
why
Yeah,
haven't
it's
they introduced the same thing? I don't understand.
Nobody, different leagues, different rules. That's the only thing that I can come up with this. And at first blush, when I read it, I was like, oh, how ridiculous was this? And then instead I will admit, and all of you, I will admit, my number one concern was like, oh, you know what? When I think about this, what happens if he goes up and somehow catches an elbow to the chest, like we've seen?
He doesn't
No.
tackle very much, to be fair, does he? But
No, but he goes up.
chances of
for-
that happening in remote.
like,
I don't
how
recall
many-
him being the most physical player in the world either.
No.
I didn't say him being the most. Yes, and I get the thing, but I mean, how many times have we seen somebody catch a wayward elbow to the chest in the course of a match, right?
Well, particularly when you play Man U, you get those all the time. Yeah.
Mhm. Apparently, when you play for British Will's five-a-side pub team, you get them too.
Oh yes, I heard. Yeah.
But my concern was like, okay, what happens if he, then I thought about it. I'm like, what happens if he catches a wayward elbow to the chest or something like that, and it hits him in the right place? This thing malfunctions and somehow messes up his heartbeat enough that he has another cardiac. But then again, I am not a doctor, nor am I a medical technician or anybody who has an intimate knowledge of how pacemakers and things like that work, right? So the basis of what we're all saying is, we express concern for Christian Eriksen because we want him to be healthy, because we want him to have a nice career. I've never met the dude. He seems like a perfectly fine guy. I do know his significant other is kind of cute. And if he goes, I'm going to have to think about that.
Yeah, Jan Vertonghen knows she's quite cute as well.
So we just all want him to be healthy, and we hope that he makes it through. All right.
As long as he doesn't do it against us, we've got them at home in 2 games' time.
Yeah, I'm just happy that we played both of our games with them beforehand, so we don't have to deal with him. And we didn't even get to talk about the new look at Everton with Donny van der Beek and potentially Dele Alli. And
Emperor's clothes.
Yes, and the signing of Frank, and finally announcing Frank Lampard as that. And Mike, we will save our discussion of the virtues of Alexander Mitrovic as a potential Premier League striker for next time, because we have got to go. And somehow I have managed to run out of time completely. So, man, Stead, this went by quickly. This is really interesting. So I want to really give a big shout out to El Hadji for coming back on. I don't know about you, Stead and Sean and Matt, you've not met, but man, I missed him. It was good to see him again. It was good to have him back on. We'll hopefully have him back on next week to celebrate a Senegal win, touch wood. Thank you to the Professor Matt Kowalski for coming on and joining us for the full 2 hours. Celtic Cam for giving us a little bit of insight into the Six Nations and the Old Firm Derby and all things north of the border. Yeah, that has nothing to do with anything, right?
Yeah, it does. They've got a
Hard
derby
tips
this
tomorrow.
week as well.
Yeah.
There's 3 derbies. Dundee United, Hearts Hibs, and Celtic Rangers.
So that's what they did. They decided to make this rivalry week. Good job, SPFL. Work on your TV contract so I can actually watch this stuff. International Rob, the world traveler, coming on and telling us about all things north of the border in the U.S. men's national team. Chelsea Mike for joining us for a little bit of transfer talk. Of course, London Sean, your insight is always valued, especially at this early hour in the morning. Stead, we got into it a little bit this week.
Yeah, it's about time. Normally, we all just sit around and agree with each other. So it's nice to have some legit disagreement. And it was great.
Yeah.
I don't know that we really disagree. I think we all want Christian Eriksen to be okay.
We all want
we
the
want.
same thing. We're just arguing it from different sides.
Yeah. Plus, I can elbow my son and go, see that guy right there? His heart's kind of messed up too. You could be a pro soccer player one day.
Of course, thanks to Covey, world's greatest performance by a giant COVID. Yeah, we actually made this through this one without too many hijinks and or anything stupid happening. You know, that means that next week is going to be completely and totally off the hook. Yes, for those of you not watching on YouTube, I am talking to a giant COVID. I tend to do that. Anyway, it's been fun. You agree? Yes, he abides. So, for producer Stead, London Sean, the Professor Matt Kowalski, International Rob, Chelsea Mike, Celtic Cam, and El Hadji. Mike, this has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. We did all right this week. We will try and do better next week.